Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. My name is Ben Stapleton, and I'm the CEO here at the U.S. Green Building Council of California. Really excited to have you for this info session. We're really trying to tackle a complicated issue around retrofit financing, and looking forward to the discussion today and hopefully being able to assist some projects along the way. Next slide, please. So quickly, while folks are logging in, just a little bit about us. Our mission and vision is pretty simple. It's transforming California into a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable place for all. At the end of the day, we do that through buildings, and there are no buildings without people. Next slide, please. And we have 10 regions now across the state of California. So we're an independent nonprofit here, really focused on four main things. So leading, educating, connecting, and advocating, and doing that both on a local level throughout the state as well as on a statewide level. And I'm really intrigued by the opportunity to take this network of people and professionals like yourselves working in these different regions and help really drive change on a local level while elevating things that have worked in one region to another and bringing a statewide system, including things like how do we address financing and retrofits on buildings like we're going to talk about today, and really dive deeper in local communities. Next slide, please. Last year, we engaged with almost 600,000 people across the state. Part of the reason I want to mention this is just that I think all of us are really looking for a place that we can come together in positivity and work on real projects to help really make our communities, safer and more sustainable long term. And so, really, you'll see here that's broken down in a few ways. We do a lot of workforce development, education, and training. We trained about 6,500 people last year across the state and been very involved in a lot of resiliency work, which I think ties into this type of retrofit work we're talking about today. Next slide, please. What has blown me away, I get the opportunity to travel across the state and talk with a lot of different people. People may express it in slightly different ways, but we surveyed our community, and everyone's top concerns are affordable housing, high energy costs, and resilience. And this was true in every region across the state. And this really blew me away because I feel like this probably resonates with you too. These are really the concerns of our time and in our society. And I think we're on a mission, and I'm on a personal mission right now for the next couple of years to really redefine sustainability as affordability. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today, right? When we look to retrofit our buildings, reduce our energy costs long term, reduce the risks for that building when we look at extreme heat or look at air quality issues, that's all making our costs of society less long term. So sustainability really is that long term affordability, and we're trying to tackle these issues head on. Next slide, please. So the agenda, the part you probably care about the most today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more here in a moment just about our California Building Performance Hub. We're going to get into a program overview of this program. We're going to talk about some case studies with our partner from Sustento Group today and talk about some of the work they're doing, some of the resources that we're offering to help support buildings through this retrofit and financing process, and get in really into the nuts and bolts of the program. So incentives, financing, selection criteria, and then we'll talk about some next steps and have some time for questions and answers. So as we go along, if you have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I actually always encourage folks to use the chat to talk to each other. We live in this like hybrid world these days, and it's important to take these moments to connect with each other. Feel free to introduce yourself, drop questions in there as you go along. Really just want to see that kind of activity and engagement. Next slide, please. So last year, we launched the California Building Performance Hub. What is that? Well, we were dealing with a variety of cities and counties, municipalities across the state. We've really been looking at building performance policy and trying to unpack what can be a wonky thing at times and how to communicate around high-performing buildings can be challenging. If you're here on this call, you may not be as much of a challenge for you. You might be a green building nerd already, and that's okay. But to translate that into common terms in a policy can be really complicated. And so we started convening just a few cities at the beginning of 2024, and we now have over 50 municipalities across the state that we convene once a month. We talk about how to create alignment around building performance policy. And rather than have everyone create their own educational resource that can be that first stop to explain what these things are, connect dots, help you figure out what compliance is or how to benchmark your building, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we had one place that can really help be that tip of the spear to connect folks with resources and explain what this building performance thing is and how to improve your building. And so we launched the Building Performance Hub last November. please check it out. There's a QR code there on the screen that you can go to. You can actually enter in your building address in the hub. It'll give you information around compliance, benchmarking. We have an AI agent that we built out for the site that has been trained on code, trained on project development guides. It can really help give you very detailed information that you can export out into your own reports or other things that you need. And part of this effort today, as we start to dive into financing, really looking to bring a lot of financing resources into that hub long term. So we want to train that AI agent to help really provide some details and talk about how the financing process works. We'll be talking about this more later, but we'll be launching some contractor training and looking at financing templates and how we can create better connections to funders for projects. So really encourage you to check this out. We'll be adding some other resources to this later this year, including connections to contractors and really helping to facilitate that process. We just want folks to be able to come in, get the information they need, and connect with the folks that can help with the next step of the process to make their buildings better long term. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Beryl Sinclair to talk a little bit about this program today. And she is our Senior Program Manager of Sustainability Programs here at the organization. And over to you, Beryl.
Thank you, Ben. All right, well, welcome everybody, and it's great to be here today. This project is the culmination of a lot of thinking and a lot of planning and a lot of ideating, and we're extremely excited to present this opportunity to everybody who could make it. So I'm just going to be walking through a quick overview of our multifamily retrofit financing assistance pilot, where we'll be able to provide, in addition to some other resources, no-cost support for building electrification and retrofit financing for sites here in LA County. So next slide, please. So as a quick overview here, we're launching this pilot with funding from the state's Tech Clean California Quick Start Grant program. And through this grant, we are able to help selected properties plan projects that will provide long-term value and may be eligible for up to 100% financing and 30 to 80% cost coverage from incentives and rebates. And really the big picture goal here is to help you as building owners, as implementers, as building managers, access incentives, control energy bills, improve resident health, and future-proof your buildings to stay ahead of climate policy. Next slide, please. So in addition to the financing assistance pilot that we are going to be diving into in more detail today, we're going to be able to work through a few additional resources that we'll be developing in 2026 to really help accelerate building retrofits across California by piloting a certain approach here in LA County. So in addition to working with 5 to 10 multifamily sites through our technical assistance pilot or financing a pilot, we will also be developing training for contractors on incentive and financing stacking. We'll be developing a CDFI and lender directory and creating financing templates for future program use to decrease the soft costs that go into building retrofits. So really all of these resources are getting wrapped up into a toolkit that we will be developing, piloting, and then launching through the Building Performance Hub at the end of 2026 to help accelerate broader market adoption of decarbonization retrofits. So all of this is in service of additional heat pump deployment in existing building stock, reducing operating costs for owners and tenants, reducing long-term program costs by leveraging additional capital more efficiently, and lowering soft cost and administrative barriers for owners and contractors, as mentioned, to create a sustainable market ecosystem that can drive down installation costs. So next slide, please. I'm now going to pass the mic and introduce our partners at Sustento Group, who are working with us on the financing assistance pilot. And I will let Dave introduce himself and take it from here to walk through some more details about what this pilot is really going to offer. Okay, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Beryl, and thanks, Ben, and everybody for carving out some time today. So I'm going to talk through kind of the parameters of the pilot that we're rolling out here. And I'm going to go fairly quickly. Some of the slides will be a little bit dense. Those will be provided in follow-up. So if you want to dig into those or share them with colleagues or clients, you'll be able to do that. And that QR code there on the right-hand side takes you, for those of you who have an itchy trigger finger, to the opt-in form to get involved. So it is, as long as many of us have been working on this, it's early days, right? When it comes to really integrating all of the different incentives, navigating policy, and layering and financing to that. So I think it's important to position this as a pilot because we're learning together. And as we have begun, diving in preparation for today's meeting and future conversations with you all, really looking at the total landscape of incentives, it's a great thing, right, to be in California and Southern California where we have so many supporting resources. It's also complex, right? And so how to navigate all of that is a big part of what we're looking to figure out here. So, quick, logistical stuff, and then we'll dive into some examples and more of the fun stuff. Multifamily, as we use it, means 5+ units. There's a focus in LA County, but you could think of this more as like SoCal Edison territory. We're not very strict in terms of the geography on this. So feel free to reach out and we can discuss if you've got assets in other markets, but let's try to be in LA County. We are focused on low income disadvantaged communities. That is a requirement of our funding source, or deed restricted affordable multifamily that may not be in a low income disadvantaged community. Um, so these are some of the criteria that we're working with. And this last one is important just because, right, we can't, this is not a silver bullet, right? There has to be a pathway, an ability to do this work responsibly. And of course, there's tons of issues, and we're going to talk more about the context and why this matters. um, a lot of affordable housing assets are struggling, right? They're losing money year over year for reasons that we won't go into today, but structural challenges. But if we're part of a portfolio that's looking good overall, we can get some deals done, and we've done that. And I'm going to highlight some case studies on the very next slide. Actually, the next slide after this. So, why, Ben talked about this affordability. I would add, and you guys know this, but our existing affordable housing is aging, right? We've got deferred maintenance that's stacking up, back rents, COVID, all the things. Meanwhile, extreme heat has become the top public health issue. We saw LA City Council introduce a motion to adopt LA County's 82-degree maximum indoor temperature. So this is starting to become really very, very real, very visceral. And how can we cope with extreme heat, give cooling to people who need it in their homes without overloading the grid or driving emissions? That's the challenge in front of us. And how can we do this? We need to shift a paradigm from a really heavy reliance on grants and everything. How can we bring private financing into the market, working with mission aligned lenders like CDFIs, and being really creative? Um, yeah, so I won't belabor the rest of this. Next, please. So I'm going to walk through a few case studies now. We worked with East LA Community Corporation, ELAC, to structure a revolving credit facility. Imagine like a mini revolving loan fund that sits at their parent nonprofit level. And it's designed with a lot of flexibility, but also checks and balances. And it's very efficient. We can go more into this, but it's designed to bridge two incentives. We're now working with them and their lenders to evolve this to bridge to other funding sources like La Casa or United to House LA that are getting at some of the rehab and other needs because really we want to try to touch a building once, right? We can't come in and talking about heat pumps and ignore the asbestos or ignore the carpet that needs to be replaced. So there's flexibility to do that. And this project is complete. I think we've learned a ton. We continue learning a ton. And this facility is now revolving. And there's a second project. I'll show you. Next slide, please. The facility was sized initially based on these first two projects, which are now complete. This one is, if this one can get done, there's a lot that can get done. This is over a 100-year-old building. It had all the issues. It needed infrastructure, both electrical and plumbing, and we were able to get to 100% electrification on this building. There was a lot of work, combination of stacking incentives, huge credit to AEA, the Association for Energy Affordability, who is doing the hard work of the TA. Our role in this, as it is with this pilot, is the financing TA. How does all of this translate into the context of lending and bridging against these incentives? But nice to see some success points. The next slide is highlighting a different model. And this is another heavily incentivized program that we worked on with Little Tokyo Service Center. And this one was contractor financed. And so we are agnostic as to how the project gets funded. Our goal here is not to push one solution, one model, or another. It's a really cool thing about USGBC that, and what makes this such a great fit for us is that we can be agnostic. What we want to see is the deepest possible projects that are making sense for the owner and the residents. And so, if a contractor can float the costs, fantastic. If that's not possible, and it's not always, what are other solutions, right? And that's our role, is to help talk through what are the options and what's the best, most supported and cost-effective pathway to get you where you're trying to go. Next. So this is a 6 month sprint, really, and we've got a funding source from tech, and so part of this is not because we don't want to do more, but also because we got to be realistic in the time we have. So we really want to partner deeply with folks that are coming through this program. So we'll be right there with you, helping to develop the the right approach, making connections. As I mentioned, we're mapping deeply into all of the different incentive programs. How do all of these? Where I discovered that one program has three separate websites, right? So we're taking on the job of figuring out what's the deal with that. How do we actually navigate that? Who's doing what to whom? So that there's a clear and transparent process through all of this. We will handle a confidential financial screening because we understand how much work goes into all of this. Free technical assistance is not really free, right? It takes time. It takes staff time and it's time away from other things you could be doing. So the intent with that is to give a sense of, is there something here, right? Is this a viable pathway for your projects, for your organization? Your profile match to what lenders are looking to lend against today? Um, and putting together that full stack, as we showed from the prior examples, and working with the program implementers on the ground across the region to do that in an efficient way. And time permitting, we are also here to support introductions to mission-aligned lenders, and as Beryl mentioned, a goal to develop a directory of lenders who want to see, call it deal flow, through the hub on a go-forward basis. So again, I'm trying to be transparent about our timeline here. It's really, this is a 6 month pilot. Of course, I think USGBC's goal is to build on this. Definitely that we leave this in a place where it's self-service, and a lot of what we'll deliver here will be accessible. Um, so we really want to get through step two. We think that's really relevant. We want to show the whole process here so you could see what to expect. Our thesis, having been doing this for a long time, a lot of at bats, is that this measure twice, cut once, right? Let's make sure that we're heading in the right direction, that we've anticipated all of the different decision points and potential bottlenecks and plan for those. And so getting through that readiness assessment puts you on a great track. Now, some of you may have projects that are further advanced. Maybe you started down the road with an incentive program, and the situation changed and the funding you thought you had maybe now needs to go somewhere else. An emergency repair, these things happen. And if you've got a project that's more clearly defined, great. We might be able to get a lot further in the process. So hopefully this slide makes sense. And again, happy to go into individual scenarios in follow-up. And there will be a way to schedule meetings with us sent in the follow-up email from today's info session. Next, please. I'm not going to read through this, but just to show you what we are building, as this is a work in process, but really putting together all of the different funding stacks and looking in utility territories, DWP, SoCal Edison, the other mini utilities like Burbank and Pasadena, and also just looking at a pure solar play for those who are more interested in that, or solar and storage. There's a gajillion technical term combinations of how this could work. And so we're mapping it out. We're mapping it out. And with this, also identifying what's the most supported pathway, what's the TA that's available, and how does work actually get installed. There's a lot of variability between these programs. And so we'll be a resource to you and your teams to support you through this process as efficiently as possible. And then likewise for lenders, right, who are not deep in this the way that we all are, how can we make this sensible for them, right? So they can gain a comfort level and gain experience lending against these incentives and getting more comfortable with underwriting. So there's learning happening on all sides, and we're facilitating that. And we look forward to working with you through this pilot to really drive those learnings through real projects. There's no better way. We can do all this mapping. We can talk about this stuff, till the cows come home. But we got to do real projects. We got to try to see how it actually works in practice. And that's what this is about. So a lot of properties don't have reserves, but maybe you do. That's the first place we'd look, right? Let's keep this simple. Incentives are there too. Incentives are typically paid though right after projects are done, and so you've got upfront costs to deal with. Now, how do we do that? There's different ways. We'll get into that. If your contractor can float the cost, fantastic. If you've got another source of funding for that work, fantastic. Grants, it's a challenging environment, but some of you, have, right, long ongoing relationships with funders. Make them aware of this work, right? There's a huge connection here between affordability, health, climate, right? This is a real nexus. And so make sure that your existing funders are aware that you're looking at this if decarb is a newer initiative for your organization. And there is financing, right? There's financing to bridge to incentives, bridge to other repayment sources for rehab work. And so all of this, again, measure twice, cut once. We want to understand all of this up front, understand your portfolio. I'll get more into that in a future slide, and figure out how do we put together the right funding stack and really match to your capacity and your timeline. I won't go through this again, but we are agnostic between these. You've got the ability to do utility on-bill financing for certain projects. You may be planning to go after low-income housing tax credits. We're seeing awards finalized for ULA this week, actually, and La Casa is going on. So there's a lot of moving parts. Just to say, we're familiar, we're plugged into all of this and can help come up with a layered or sequenced approach, working with you, again, depending on what your property needs are, where you're at in your compliance cycle, and so forth, and try to put something together that makes the most sense for you. Just to zoom in on one model that we're pretty excited about, we think it's highly replicable, and this is what we call the Retrofund model, because you got to have a cute acronym. I just learned about the SoCalGas Comfy program, which I like that one. But this stands for Revolving Energy Transition and Resilience Fund. Kind of, says it on the can. So this is an entity level revolving credit facility. Nothing terribly novel about that, but applying that to the retrofit context is a new thing. And so we worked with all those awesome organizations that you see listed there to get this thing done for East LA Community Corporation, and this is now revolving. It's working. It was originally built to fund the first two projects that they had. Now it's funding a third, and it's about to fund solar across their whole portfolio. And as I mentioned, we're evolving it now to also potentially, it's not done yet, to bridge to ULA or La Casa awards because those that work needs to happen now. It'd be great if it could be coordinated with the decarb stuff, right? And so not having to wait until those funds are actually dispersed, 6 months, a year from now. Um, Again, I won't read everything on the screen, and this is not the solution; it's a solution. But we think it's very promising, and so happy to talk more about this as we get into it with you all. Next slide, please. So, what do we actually do together? How does this actually work? Um, I think I said a lot of this already, so I'll try to go through this quickly and happy to answer questions. But we want to understand your portfolio. What do you have? Where is it? What are the different affordability levels, the population served? That helps to map to the different incentive programs because they all have different eligibility criteria. We will take that brain damage. Want to know what other information do you have about, what's the need, what's the opportunity with each of these assets? It's okay if you don't have anything, but we'll try to understand what you do have. And again, what is the overall like real estate strategy? What's driving the intervention opportunity there? Then, if this all sounds good, you're feeling comfortable, you want to proceed to the next level, we think it's a good idea to save everybody time and do a little bit of initial due diligence. Not in any way a substitute for the underwriting that lenders will eventually do, but we can save everybody a lot of time and cost by just taking a look at the last few years' financials, seeing how things are trending, understanding a little bit about the existing capital structure and essentially teeing this up, right? So you can have a more efficient interaction with lenders. And if there's time, if we're able to get to that during this course of this pilot, that really facilitates some back and forth and helping everybody to get creative about how to size and structure a deal. So this is something we figured out, and lenders love this. Everybody we've previewed this to really, really likes it. And we're building this out with DWP as part of their camera program now. And then we build together, right? So we work with you based on what we learn about your portfolio, what feels right in terms of how many projects you want to manage, think you can manage simultaneously. How does that kind of relate, little art and science here, to the financial posture of the organization and the options available, and pick some projects to focus on. There can be an opportunity to bundle. We think there's a really good case for doing that, not mandatory. And then what's going to be the pathway, right, to stack the different incentives? If you've got projects in multiple utility territories, right, we map all that out together and hopefully put you on a good path so that you can take this forward. And again, depending how advanced the projects are, we can get further on that with you in the term of the pilot. I think I've also covered most of this, but we want to confirm the eligibility. We've got some terms we have to comply with USGBC with tech, the funder for this pilot. Um, we got to understand the portfolio and how that maps over to incentive eligibility. It's really important as a repayment source for any kind of financing, whatever it is. Even if you do utility on bill, you must go through the incentive programs. Um, and we want to work with people who are ready. We understand, this may not be great timing. That's okay. We want to focus on, working with, say, 3 to 5 owners with 2 or 3 projects each, whatever combination that gets us to roughly 10. Again, we're happy to do more if that emerges and is doable. Um, and yeah, so we want to just feel that there's alignment, right? That we're all on the same page because we're willing to invest a lot of time and effort alongside you to do this. So today on the right side here process, we're doing outreach right now. This is part of that. We are happy to have introductory one-on-one meetings, and there will be an opportunity to schedule those once you fill out an interest form, and we'll put the QR code up again for that in a minute. And then the rest I think I talked about, getting through the screening, selection, scoping. So we want to work with you closely to get to a workable path forward. So I think I'll hand it back to Beryl to guide us through the rest of it, and we have some time for Q&A.
Thanks so much, Dave, and thank you for that overview. Just really in a nutshell, as we close things out, no single program will pay for everything, but the right combination can cover a significant amount of the costs. And so that's what we're here to partner with you with. And we are really excited to open up enrollments for this pilot. We are going to be working toward having sites enrolled toward the ends of June. And I'm just dropping a link to the form in the chat now for everyone's review. So next slide, please. So just as a recap of how to apply and eligibility, we're targeting multifamily buildings with 5+ units with a focus in LA County. If you have projects that are of interest, please let us know. We have a little flexibility in terms of working in different markets, as Dave mentioned. So we would love to sort of see what we can do here in terms of having a really diverse cohort of project teams to work on through this pilot. Again, the pilots must be within low-income or disadvantaged communities or deed restricted affordable housing and cash flow positive overall. So please also reach out to us at cabuildinghub@usgbc-ca.org with any questions. In terms of next steps here, please fill out this enrollment form using a project that could be a fit, and then we will reach out to you to set up an intro call with the team on this webinar today. So next slide, please. So as we sort of wrap up this presentation, we wanted to highlight an upcoming event that will be featuring many of the folks that you see in this room today. On June 11th, we're going to be zooming out a little bit and giving a 2026 policy update for City of Los Angeles multifamily stakeholders. This will be a roundtable featuring some speakers, Dave from Stento, as well as some other folks from the city of LA and from USGBC California, as well as a representative from a multifamily property management company. Very excited to present a market landscape breakdown of 2026, as well as dive into some of the implications around the implementation of building performance standards for multifamily here in the city. So please RSVP today, and we will drop the link in the chat for this session as well. Next slide, please. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that for anybody who can make it up to Berkeley next week, we will be having the 25th Annual California Green Building Conference. Please join. It is not just educational, it's a lot of fun, and we would love to see you there. And so without further ado, the very final slide here will be a call for questions and answers. So maybe in a second we can stop sharing, but we welcome your Q&A in the chat, and our team will be here in the Zoom room to answer any questions or provide any more context from anybody as it comes up. And again, you can always feel free to reach out to us at cabuildinghub@usgbc-ca.org if you'd like to follow up one-on-one.